I think personally, there are times when we can go out and you can see people having discussions about some climate issues, but this tends to happen more at times when it may be in the news. For example, when there was the forest fires happening in Spain, I think it was in September, that was a topic of discussion that people were having.
I do think that we talk about it a lot more than we did earlier, which I think is a good change, and I think it's necessary, because if we're not speaking about it, then it might become something that is a passive part of our lives.
Big companies are putting the responsibility on our shoulders when we're not even in control of our lives really at this age, but also they're the big polluters, and they're telling us to switch from plastic straws to metal straws as if they're not producing tons and tons of carbon dioxide a year.
I think you can make a change, but it has to come from above. It can't just be like you yourself, like if the government and the people that with power don't do anything about it, you are not going to want to do anything about it either.
What role do you think that youth plays? This is a generation that will be affected most by climate change, that will be affected most by the impact that the last generation has. What can you guys do to change things going forward?
Well, as you said, that we are the generation that will feel the most impacts from these consequences. So it is vital that the youth have an important role to play. If we saw the climate strikes that happened, they encouraged the youth to come out, to have a voice, and to present to governments that we want change.
The changes that we make in our personal lives, it won't really have much of an effect, especially considering that 71% of the global emissions come from just 100 companies.
COP26, as we said, is taking place in Glasgow right now. Are you optimistic about the pledges that countries are making? Do you think that these might be kept? Do you think that this might make the necessary difference?
No, I don't think so, because it's been tried once and many other times, and they haven't gone through with it. So I think it could work, but I don't think the countries are going to put enough effort into it and commitment to it to actually make a change.
The pandemic that we saw the world healing itself. Fish and other creatures that live by the sea have actually been coming back to shore and living around the bays again because they weren't in threat. The world healed for a bit, and the ozone layer was shutting. It was just it was a big thing, and that was only over 2-3 months in 2020. Yeah. So it shows that the world can heal itself, and I think that's an optimistic view that we can have. Mm-hmm. However, I just don't think we'll adapt the correct procedures to be able to meet that again.
Doesn't look like there's necessarily a clear path to improvement, but all we can do in Gibraltar is tend to our own garden. So what's on your wish list for the climate strategy that will be published this week? What do you want to see change in Gibraltar?
Yeah, definitely the vehicles. People tend to have perhaps 2 vehicles per household, some even 3, when that may not be necessary. We live in a very small place. Do we need that many vehicles? People want to help the environment, but they don't want to lose anything.
Yeah, and it's also about affordability. Some people can't afford to buy all the things needed to actually be 100% sustainable. It's more expensive, but I think GIB gives a lot of help in that, and I think they could actually make a change.
I think GIB is a small place. You can just walk around quite easily rather than having to drive everywhere. I think that making small changes will have an effect. So just encouraging people and having laws in place that ensure that people stick to these will have a positive effect.
I think bike lanes, we need bike lanes in Gibraltar, promote cycling, and whether people have health conditions and they need to drive a car. But many of us, myself included, we can just cycle everywhere in Gibraltar if we really didn't want to take the time to walk. The longest walk you're going to have to make in GIB is 45 minutes? And if you cycle it can be 20, and I don't think that's going to kill anyone. You might as well just cycle.